Hey everyone, Ben here and welcome for the very first time for me and on the channel to Sebring. We're in the GT4 Challenge 15-minute sprint race. I'm in the McLaren and we are about to get underway from P13 of a 27-car grid, and straight away, even before we're properly racing, there's incident as Jean-Marc Gerstner makes contact with us on the inside. He understeered right into me and he has spun out, and that has created a bit of a gap behind me, which is actually quite handy. Hopefully we haven't picked up any damage. Very tricky to get underway through that final corner and on to the start finish straight, but we are through T1 then. Everybody, it seems, up ahead has gotten through cleanly. We've got a couple of seconds gap back to the drivers behind and we're following Ray Havana around. Ignore the jumping car of Aaron Bachero Castro. His connection will settle down shortly. But we're through the first set of corners then. Cold tyres, cold brakes, so just trying to measure braking points, turning points, trying not to understeer because this track is so difficult. If you end up running wide, you're straight onto the grass, heavy braking down into the first of these hairpin-like corners that characterise the lap here at Sebring. Really enjoyed getting to grips with this track. There's tight racing happening up ahead as well as Ray Havana is trying to put a move on Castro up ahead. They may well be side by side into the next tight right-hander. They are. Havana on the outside. I'm just going to keep a watching brief at this moment. Try to undercut Havana on the exit, but look up ahead. He loses the rear and he's off to the left-hand side, and I just avoid ploughing into the rear end. And if you enjoyed those quick reflexes, then make sure to like the video, get subscribed, and you won't miss out on any of the sim racing content we've got coming up. We're into the middle sector then of this opening lap, and you can see there's just half a second up to the pack of cars up ahead. Tricky corner this one. Third gear, you want to hug to the apex on the right hand side, and now look up ahead again. We're going to see more drama in action as a Mercedes loses it, clips the grass on the outside. That's Paolo Varolo. He is off and out of the race to the right hand side. Surely he'll need to come into the pits to get his car repaired. So we've actually gained a position then from P13, gained two positions in fact. When you take in Ray Havana into the equation as well, we're going to be on the verge of the top 10 as we squeeze right onto the rear wing of Castro up ahead, who himself is following Maury very closely as we come onto the start finish straight. Then once again the sunlight bouncing off the grandstand to the right hand side. A very tidy first lap given the potential for chaos in this series and on this circuit. Get the car through the very tricky high speed left-hander. It's bouncing all over the place. You've got to just keep wrestling the wheel a little bit, close right in on Castro into the first proper braking zone of the lap, and you can see he's getting backed up a little by the BMW up ahead. That might give me a chance on corner exit here, and it does. We've got a much better exit. I'm going to take to the outside. This will become the racing line into the heavy braking zone that we're about to approach on the right hander, so he will have the inside line. I'm very nearly all the way past because of that momentum, but look at that, he's later on the brakes down the inside. I'm going to have to stay very wide here, and then we come across the curb. Oh, but he's turned in and we're both off. We're off into the grass, and at this point in the cockpit I couldn't believe it. I've lost all of my momentum. I've lost touch with the cars up ahead, and I'm going to have to let Burez through, and in the cockpit it felt as though I was ran out of room on the left hand side of the track. Unfortunately, when we see it on the replay from Chopper Cam, and this is why it's so important you review incidents like this, there really wasn't that much of a gap for me to go to there. In fact, I wasn't alongside. It felt like in the cockpit that I was. We slow it down and you can see really that is a bit of a punt to pass. I think that's on me, and I'm really apologetic to Castro after the race. Unfortunately, I didn't stop to let him rejoin ahead of me because I really, in cockpit at the time, didn't think it was my fault. But I think on reflection, it was, so it was right that I apologised after the race. We've rejoined the live action though, and I am right on the rear wing of Burez. It's the same lap that we left the live action from before. So I'm trying to regain that position immediately and get on up the road and try and reconnect with the top 10 up ahead. You can see I'm in his slipstream. I'm closing into the final corner of the lap. I'm going to try and undercut him into the inside of the corner. He will have the faster outside line here, but we're alongside one another, side by side, through the final corner. But it looks like he's going to have the better momentum down the start-finish straight. No joy in getting the move done there, but I'm going to try and keep the pressure on here as we're coming through into the left-hander. Very difficult to mount an overtake here again, so I'm going to have to just slot in behind and then try and keep the pressure on through the first part of the next lap. But we were ultimately going to get into the top 10 because there was another mistake from a Mercedes driver up ahead, very similar to the incident that we saw on the opening lap. And although Lopez tried to keep going, he did end up in pit lane, and that promoted me up into the top 10. We rejoined the live action just a few laps later, and I'm really trying to crank the pressure up on Buarez up ahead, but unfortunately I just overdo it. I understeer out onto the runoff area there, and that costs me a huge amount of time. And then just a couple of laps later I make another mistake. I outbrake myself into one of the right-handers in the middle part of the lap and look in my rear view mirror. I'm now under big pressure from P11, Marcin Drosts behind, who's going to be all over my rear wing heading onto the back straight, so I'm going to be under big pressure here. I just managed to hold the inside through the right-hander there, but I'm losing momentum every time I go defensive here. We're confident enough to run it out wide to open this corner out to try and get the best run down the back straight that I can, but he's just 0.2 seconds behind me now as we pass all of the trailers on the right hand side and prepare to spot my braking into the final corner. We're going to go split screen though, because look at how close he is behind me. You can see from his vantage point on the right hand side of the screen, he's putting pressure on me all the way through this final corner, which just seems to stretch on forever. You've got to be so patient at getting the gas down, otherwise you will understeer off into the barrier. I'm able to hold the position, but look at how close he is as we cross the start finish line. He shapes to the inside to put pressure on me. Down the inside, I'm going to have to stay wide. That will give me the quicker line on exit, but we are side by side. Look at that. He gives me plenty of room on the outside, and I'm able to hold him off. We're now down into the complex of corners here. Again, he shapes to the inside, perhaps just trying to put me offline there, but I'm able to hold the position. And then, just as we come through the next corner, it's actually him who makes the mistake. Dross is off onto the grass, and he ends up spinning the car, and that puts himself out of contention. And that really was the last significant action of the race, so a bit of a scruffy one, but we are going to bring home a P10 from this first outing at Sebring. It's a hugely enjoyable circuit to race. The GT4s are perfect around here, and although I was pleased with the final result coming in the top 10, I can't say that I fully enjoyed the race because I'm still regretful of that impact with Castro. As you can see, the full classified results, it really cost him a lot of positions. I got away with it, but it ultimately was my fault. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, check out the one that's on screen. It's another belting race, and I will see you on the next one.